think you guys can.
Okay, sorry. I cut you off.
I think you guys can all see that.
Yep, we're good.
Perfect. Okay, let me get it presenting now. Sweet. So hi everyone. My name is Justin. I like it's Lucy was said. Like Lucy said, I'm a first year student here at the University of Waterloo. I applied last year. I was lucky enough to get in after my third year. And so I went to the U of A. I was part of the pre-optometry club, and I know how much it helped me. Just hearing about different schools, hearing students' insights into schools and everything like that. And so I kind of hope that some things I say today can help you, or if you're not sure if you want to go into optometry, maybe this will make up your mind, because I think optometry is a pretty sick career path to go into. And so, yeah, let's get started. So I'm kind of going through things that you'll do before, kind of like heard some of you saying that you're applying or you have applied already for Waterloo. And then I'll kind of go into things, what your first year will look like, and some of the things that I really like about Waterloo. And so for those who don't know, when you apply for optometry school, you have to take your OAT, your Casper test. Those are two, your Casper's an ethics test. And your OAT is just general science knowledge test. And then once you write those, you can actually, Waterloo has, I found it pretty straightforward to apply the application process to go onto the Waterloo website, and you fill out a form, you send off your form, and then you have to wait. You have to wait till in early December, late November. You find out if you get an interview, and then they say we'll get you more information closer to the day, and then you wait a little bit more, and your interview will be in January. So it's been a little bit different with COVID. Normally they have everyone come and to the campus, and you do a tour of campus or the optometry building and whatnot. So for my last year, they actually didn't do any interviews or anything. What they did is, when you did your Casper test, they asked 3 questions, and you just recorded yourself, and they used that as your interview. And so also keep in mind, if they ever do the Casper snapshot, which is recording the questions, take that serious, because I didn't think they were going to use it. They said on their website, they're just like, just do it because it's there. And then later they said, yeah, we're taking that. And I was like, oh shoot, I didn't realize that. So a little bit scared for me. And that's one thing, just keep in mind that they might be using that. I haven't really heard what they're doing this year, if they're doing online or in person. I know that they're actually planning on, in Ontario, our numbers are going down. So they're planning in person, everything, all classes in person in the fall or in the winter. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do in-person interviews this year. And then late March, you find out if you've been accepted. And so Waterloo is the slowest school when it comes to accepting students. A lot of the US schools, you'll find out, I think I had a friend who found out in November that she was accepted to Pacific University for optometry. And I think that's when they just let you know if you have interviews at Waterloo. But it's, even though it's a bit later, I think it's still well worth to apply to other schools. And if you get an offer, you can make a down payment and stuff. But definitely apply for Waterloo, because it can save you a lot of money, but in the long run, but also that it's a pretty fun school to be at. And so once you get accepted, and you get late March, you find out if you've been accepted, and there's different papers you have to fill out. So vaccinations, your criminal record check, your transcripts you upload. But it's actually, Waterloo is pretty nice because they step you through that step by step. So they help you really close to be, okay, you need this by this stage and this by this date. And so actually all summer you'll be doing that. You'll be filling out that paperwork and getting it all ready for the fall. And so, and then your fall time, you get to come to the University of Waterloo. It's just some of my first impressions of Waterloo is that I really like it. It's really night and day difference between undergrad and optometry program, because you're not marked on a curve. You're not competing with other students. It's literally just you, right? Like if you pass, that's perfect. And they really put a lot of trust in you. And so the professors are also really willing to work with you. Like, for example, we had a couple weeks ago, I think we had 4 midterms booked in 1 week. And so as an optometry, as our year, our first years, we elected a president, and they went and they talked to the teachers and be like, hey, can we move a midterm? Because we don't want 4 in 1 week. And they did. And so we've actually moved a couple midterms around to help us. And the professors are really, really wanting to help. And it's also interesting because it's like they actually want to know your name too. You're not just another student in a class of 300, that you're actually a student that you'll see them throughout the years, through the semesters, you'll see them. And so they actually take time to invest in you, where you don't get the same feeling in undergrad. And the camaraderie is also really unreal. It's on the right, that's actually that's only a third of our class, because right now we have in-person labs. And so that was our lab section that I was assigned to. And it's a very diverse group of people that come from all over Canada, many different backgrounds and everything. And people are really trying to, where you're in this together. You feel like you're part of a group that wants to, well, you're all wanting to be optometrists. And so there's different activities we've done, but also just things like study groups. Like there's been students who be like, hey, I did a lot of physics, kind of optics, light and lenses and stuff in my undergrad. I'm going to hold a kind of open like session, do a group work session to help anyone who needs it. And that was really cool. And there's also people reminding each other of due dates and everything like that. And you really start to get to know, the people you're with, right? Because you're with them for 4 years. Your 4th year, you're doing your rotations, clinical rotations. So you don't see everyone, but it's really nice that you actually get to develop some friendships and that they'll last for 3-4 years, and that you get to see your class when it's not COVID every day. If it is COVID, just online. And also it's really fun between years too, because one cool thing they do here at the University of Waterloo is they have a big sib, little sib, they call it, and they actually pair you up with a 2nd-year student, and they're your big sibling. And so any questions you need to ask, any like, just if you're struggling with things, you can ask them, because they were at last year. And so my big sib's been awesome, because he's been telling me about books, about classes, what classes are harder, what the tests are like. And just between the years too, they're really friendly, that you can be walking through the building and it's like, you may not know the person, they might be in 3rd year and stuff, but they'll still say hi and they'll still talk to you, because you're one group, you're all working together to be optometrists. And so life as an optometry student, it is busy. This semester I actually have 7 classes, and next semester I'll have 9 classes. So it's and I've heard from other schools in the US and stuff, it's a similar thing that there's a lot of information that you learn in optometry school. So they really do push you. And it's not that all the classes are really hard. It's just the volume of it, that having 7 classes with 3 labs, it just takes up time to study for it. But some classes are easier than others, and you actually get some cool experiences. So I got to do in one of my classes, I had to go into the optometry clinic on campus, and I was job shadowing, but I was with some 30 or 4th year students who were doing vision therapy with patients. And so we got to be there and ask questions and learn a little bit about vision therapy. They do some in primary care and brain injuries, rehabilitation, and things like that. And so they have quite a few different specialities in the clinic, and that you can you get to experience a little bit of everything. You get a taste for different fields, subfields in optometry that you can do. And so this semester we've been mostly online, and we go in person for some of our labs. And so it's nice we get to see each other, but that's about it. And like I said, hopefully next semester we're actually going to be in person. And it's also really cool how many opportunities you have at Waterloo. There's a lot of clubs to be involved in. There's mission trips, there's executive positions for our class, but there's also things like equipment reps. There's things that there's different clubs, like they have a guide dogs club, they have a private practice club, and there's a lot of opportunities to get involved and do things that you find that you're interested, or if you're not interested, you don't necessarily have to join it. And it's just cool, the opportunities they have. And so some things that I wish I did before coming to Waterloo is don't procrastinate getting your forms in. I was one who I kind of waited right to the deadline, and it makes it a little nervous when you wait to make sure you do it all before, and that way they can process everything in time. And one of the things that I knew but didn't know is that you can get classes exempt here at Waterloo. If you took a similar class in your undergrad, you can actually get exempt. But one thing you need is your syllabus. And so I was lucky enough, I had Immunology 200 at the U of A. If you take that directly transfers over. And so that's one less class you have to do. But I didn't have my syllabus, and you actually take a human gross anatomy your first semester. And so you're taking physiology 210A and B or human anatomy. Yeah, keep those syllabuses and you might be able to get some classes knocked off, which is really nice too. And yeah, so that's
Sorry, Justin, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're cutting out. I don't know if it's just for me. Okay. Oh, I think I kicked him out. Okay, I'll just give him a second to rejoin. I think he was just saying if anyone has any questions, just inferring from the slideshow. Oh, there he is. Sorry, it like cut out there for a second.
There we are. I did cut out there. Yeah. Did I just cut out on my last slide?
Yeah, just as you started it, it just started glitching.
Okay, perfect. Good. Didn't want to go through my whole presentation and realize that it wasn't there.
No, you're all good. If you want to repeat what you were saying, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I guess just if there's any questions, which I didn't see any, but and just thanks for the club for having me, and that I can be able to talk to you guys, and hope you enjoyed it.
No, thank you for coming out and sharing your experience. It's always really nice hearing from another like U of A student how the process was, and we appreciate your time. So thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions or wants to ask some afterwards, I can always give you Justin's email. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have. Otherwise, I think we'll have Dr. Bright present now. Sorry about the time confusion, Dr. Bright. It happens all the time. It's so confusing sometimes.
I am so sorry. I had it in my calendar for our time to start at 8 o'clock. So thankfully I looked at my phone. I was just reading my kids a story before bed, and I looked down at my phone and I saw, are you joining soon? And right away I was like, oh my goodness. So my apologies. I'm pretty embarrassed about the whole thing. So I'm glad that Justin was able to speak first to kind of fill the time there. So I think that he did an extremely good job at speaking on behalf of the students. Now, I do have a PowerPoint presentation. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to. I have it so all participants can share.
Okay, let's see here. Hold on a sec.
You know if it works out.
I don't see the option. Oh, here we go. Okay, can everyone see the presentation?
Yep, I can.
Yeah, okay, great. So again, I'll be speaking on behalf of the admissions committee at the University of Waterloo School of Optometry. Let's see. All right, so I am Dr. Bright. I am one of the admissions officers. I am a lecturer at the School of Optometry, and I'm also a private practitioner. So I have lots of different experiences in both academia and private practice, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some of your questions tonight. So we're super excited that those of you who are here tonight are interested in Waterloo for optometry and vision science. It's definitely an exciting place for education, patient care, subspecialty training, community service, research. We do really have an amazing group of faculty, staff, and especially the students. So optometry is a primary healthcare profession. So an optometrist is an independent primary healthcare provider who specializes in the examination, diagnosis, management, and prevention of diseases and disorders of the visual system, the eye, its associated structures, as well as diagnosis of the ocular manifestations of systemic conditions. So what does it mean to become an optometrist, or what does it take? And so first of all, you will need at least 3 years of undergrad in a science program, and then you'll need to complete the prerequisite courses and admissions requirements. You do need to maintain a full course load, which is 5 courses per term for the 6 terms. And then you can apply to the OD program, the earliest time being the summer between your 2nd and 3rd year of undergrad. And then if you are accepted, and once you have written the or have successfully completed the Doctor of Optometry program, then you would need to complete the Canadian board exams and apply to practice in whatever province across Canada that you're hoping to work in. Now, I have to apologize. I only caught probably the last quarter of Justin's presentation. So if any of this information is repetitive, I apologize. So Waterloo is the only the only Doctor of Optometry program with instruction in English in Canada. And the undergrad prerequisites can be completed at any of the universities across Canada. And I can truly say that all applicants do have an equal chance for one of the 90 first-year places. So as an admissions committee member, when we are given anonymized data, we never see what university the applicants are applying from. So there is no university preference for one program over the other. We don't look at what program in science you've chosen to take. It's more about what prerequisites you have taken in order to apply. We also don't look at anything to do with high school grades when making admissions decisions. So you do need a minimum overall average of 75% to apply, and must have taken 5 courses per term for the 6 terms. We'll go over the prerequisite courses as well as the optometry admissions test, or the OAT, and that can be taken as early as December of your 2nd year of undergrad. And then if need be, you can retake it every 3 months if required. So for September 2023 admission, same admissions criteria as it was this year in terms of the prerequisite courses. You need 2 terms of general biology with lab, a term of general chem with lab, 2 terms of physics with labs, a term of calculus, a term of intro psych, 2 terms of physiology, and it can be either human or mammalian. You need a term of organic chemistry, microbiology, biochem, statistics, English, and then an introductory ethics course for 1 term. So the OAT test, it's based on first-year science courses, but it also does have a section in organic chemistry. So you really do want to make sure that you have some background in organic chemistry before attempting the OAT. The sections of the test are quantitative reasoning, reading comprehension, physics, biology, general chem, and organic chem. And typically the scores basically range from 200 to 400, and the average Canadian OAT is between 330 and 340. Now, the average for the class admitted for 2021 was 380. So the OAT scores are typically pretty high for students who are admitted into the program. If you do attempt the OAT and you have any score for any section that's under 300, you do need to retake it. And as I believe I mentioned, you have to wait at least 3 months between sittings. And of course, your best score would be used for admissions purposes. So in addition to the academic criteria, there's also non-academic requirements. The CASPER, which is to be taken each year you apply. We do look at your work experience, volunteer experience, extracurricular activities, time spent volunteering or job shadowing with an optometrist. Now, a minimum of 8 hours is required. So that is a requirement. You'll need to provide 2 references, one of whom would be an optometrist and the other is a character reference. And then if all goes well, you could be invited to the meet and greet. Now, I know I heard Justin briefly talking about the CASPER. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's an online test which assesses non-cognitive skills and interpersonal characteristics. So it's not really a test you study for. There's 12 sections in the CASPER, and basically it shows different scenarios and you're required to answer a set of probing questions, and then each response you give is graded by different raters. So it does give a very robust and reliable view of personal and professional characteristics that are important to being a healthcare professional. We have used the CASPER snapshot, which basically allows applicants to demonstrate communication skills and personal qualities when we weren't able to do face-to-face communication because of COVID. So references, as mentioned, you need an optometrist reference. Of the 2 references, you can't have individuals who are your relatives write a reference for you. I think that's pretty straightforward. For your character reference, that might be a coach, it might be a previous employer, instructor, a supervisor, anyone who really can attest to you as a potential applicant or a potential optometrist in the future. So the meet and greet, the purpose of it is to get to know you and better assess your suitability for becoming an optometrist. We look at your communication skills. We look at why you want to become an optometrist and your interpersonal skills. And then we do give consideration to how much you really know about the profession, how motivated you are, your ability to think clearly and logically, how you come across in terms of your self-confidence, your warmth, your verbal expression of ideas. So it's an all-around good opportunity to assess our applicants. Now, looking at the admission statistics for the last few years, you can see that typically there's been around 250 to 300 applicants for the 90 spots. Each year we've been able to offer 90 seats in our class, and typically there's more women than male who get an offer of admission. Of course, there are individuals who are undeclared. The overall average typically ranges in the high 80s, so you can see, for the entering class, anywhere from 86 to 88% average, and then overall averages range. So for this incoming class, for example, there were students with an overall average of 79 up to 96. So large range in overall averages. This is just a picture of our pre-clinic space. So this is the space where students practice. Starting in the winter term of first year, you end up spending a lot of time in the pre-clinic space where you're practicing your clinical skills with classmates under the supervision of licensed optometrists. So there's 27 exam lanes up on the 4th floor of our optometry building, and they're all equipped with the basic equipment you need to perform an eye exam, with the exception of any of the handheld equipment, and that is the equipment that you would be required to provide when you're in the program. So once you are admitted, you are required to submit a criminal record check, and then proof of up-to-date immunizations, which include your MMR, tetanus, diphtheria, Hep B, TB test results within the last 12 months. The COVID-19 vaccination is a required immunization. And then, of course, other immunizations may be required based on, whatever's happening in the world at that time, just like COVID-19 was an added-on requirement this year. So looking at the actual program, the first 2 years are really heavily didactic. There's 6 to 7 courses per term, and students begin really learning the clinical techniques in the winter term of first year. And starting in first year, you do shadow in some of the clinics. And then as you move on to second year, you spend more time doing your clinical techniques and clinical training. And then once you enter third year, that's where I'll say independently provide patient care, but of course that's with the help of a licensed optometrist. And then fourth year is basically comprised of 3 terms of 2 clerkships and 1 internship at the school. Now, I'm not going to go through this entirely, but you can see kind of the different courses offered over from year 1 to 4. Year 1 are more of the general courses, medical microbiology, human gross anatomy, and then some ocular anatomy, physiology. You start learning clinical techniques. And then year 2, more into your optics and binocular vision courses. And then year 3, more of your specialty type courses. And then, as I mentioned, year 4 is an internship and then 2 clerkships. So what is a clerkship? Well, clerkships are basically where you provide patient care outside of the School of Optometry. So you would be placed in two different clerkship, at least I should say, two clerkship settings within Canada and the US. And during that time, you're providing patient care under, again, the supervision of a licensed optometrist and or ophthalmologist. We have an accredited clerkship program, so we've been able to really enhance the quality of our student clerkship experiences over the last few years. And this is a time where you kind of put everything you've learned into practice and you get to use it for providing patient care. This is a photo of our simulation lab. So I might have been in 2018, we opened a simulation lab where students are able to practice some of the more advanced ocular health techniques on simulation equipment. So the benefit of this is that, for example, if you're doing techniques that require instilling drops in the eyes, you don't actually have to be instilling drops on your classmates all the time, but you can still practice the clinical techniques on model eyes and work through some critical thinking cases in order to improve your skills. So it's been a really great addition to the Waterloo's optometry program. In 2020, we added more advanced equipment. So now we can do some more of the anterior segment eye disease techniques. And again, this is only just helping the students be able to practice and continue improving their techniques without relying on classmates to sit as subjects all of the time. Now, I don't know if you guys talked about student expenses, but typically tuition's about $9,000 per term. Years 1 to 3 are 2 terms each. And then when you start for 4th year, it's a 3-term year. So over the 4 years, you're looking at a tuition of just over about $80,000. And of course, in terms of living expenses, rent is really going to vary based on your preferences in terms of shared living expenses versus, independent accommodations. And then other expenses while you're in optometry school will be required equipment and books. The city transportation is free to all students at UW. Now, for some of you, you may have heard of the Seeing Beyond 2020 campaign. This is a campaign that's promoting the Waterloo Eye Institute, which is a new development whereby the school is looking to start the construction of a really robust clinic and education program, training graduates to the highest level of optometry practice anywhere in the world, really. So the idea is to have ophthalmology working within the Waterloo Eye Institute, some surgical theaters, so students can really work interdisciplinary with different ophthalmologists and really position optometry as a way to advance scope of practice across the country, which is really exciting. This, for those of you who may have seen the optometry building in its current state, this is a architectural rendering of what the Eye Institute is, I guess, anticipated to look like. I don't know what iteration they're on, but a huge renovation overall to the school, which is, again, very exciting. Now, I know there was talk about life as an optometry student, and you can't hear it better than from an optometry student themselves. So I'll just briefly go over, there's lots of opportunity for student engagement and some really, really fun things to do. The optometry program, there's no doubt, it's a vigorous program, lots of studying, lots of lectures and labs, but you do have time to have fun too. And so, orientation week is always a great time to meet the people that you're going to spend the next 4 years with. So lots of fun events have happened in the past. Of course, COVID has basically put a little bit of a wrench in things, but past events have included cruises, going to Canada's Wonderland, bowling, pub crawls, frisbee tournaments, tons of really fun things. Typically every year there's a trip for optometry students to go to Montreal and visit the Montreal School of Optometry. During that time, you get to see Old Montreal, you can shop on St. Catherine Street, and then later in the year, the Montreal students come to Waterloo and have the opportunity to see Waterloo, and really it's an opportunity to meet, you know, future fellow colleagues. Other events that typically happen on an annual basis are the curling and hockey tournaments. You don't have to be an athlete to participate. We have people who have never even been on skates who come on the ice and play, which is fun, or just cheering on the sidelines. So lots of competition among the classes and years, including faculty competing and grad students. So optometry is a very successful career. More than 99% of our students graduate. There might be a student or two each year that might need to repeat a course. Of course, all courses are required to be passed in order to proceed through the program. We do have a very high first-time success rate on the board exams, and there is 100% employment rate within 6 months of graduating, which is very promising as a career. And there's a lot of different varieties in terms of how optometrists end up spending their careers. So could be in solo practice, group practices. There's opportunity in industry and academia, country or foreign country service, residencies. So UW does have residencies as well as a master's and PhD program. And then, of course, convocation. That's the time where everyone celebrates the 4 years of hard work and fun. So that kind of takes us through the journey of applying to optometry school and some highlights throughout the program. I will spend a few minutes answering questions if there are any, but after the presentation, or if there's questions I can't answer, I encourage any of you to reach out to our admissions office team, which includes myself and Dr. Halito, and then our admissions and undergrad studies coordinator, Maria Modio. If you use the opt admissions email that I've included on the slide, one of us will get back to you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions now. So feel free to use the chat box or just unmute your mic and go ahead and talk, whatever works.
I guess I'll start because I'm sure some people are typing. What is the meet and greet like? Because I know it's like a one-day thing where everyone who is invited for interviews goes that day. So what does the day like entail?
I actually, as an admissions officer, last year was my first year on the team, so I haven't actually experienced a meet and greet personally, and last year, of course, was virtual. Typically, it's tours around the school, presentations from faculty and students, and then the one-on-one interviews. Actually, they're not one-on-one, they're kind of group interviews, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I just had a question about when we're completing our application and we're putting on volunteering. I know you don't look at high school marks. How far back do you want us to go with volunteering? If we've been with Big Brother, Big Sister for the last 7, 8, 9 years, is that applicable? Or do we just consider everything that we've done since our university time has started?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you've committed yourself to a specific cause or organization, I think that that's something to be proud of and to highlight on your application. So even though it's something you may be doing now, but it spanned the last, let's say, 6 years, I think it's important to include that. If it was, you volunteered for a heart and stroke walk when you were in grade 9, probably not as relevant, and more, focusing on the volunteer and or extracurriculars of more relevant to your undergrad. But again, if you've committed to something and it spanned through high school, I do think that's important to show your commitment.
Perfect. Thank you.
I guess you did a really awesome job answering everyone's questions. This always happens because we have such amazing presenters. So if no one else has any questions, I guess they can always email you guys, like you said, at the opt admissions email. And I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day, and sorry about the time confusion.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
So-
Clearly, I'm not in tune with our differences in time zone.
It's all good.
There is one question that just popped up in the chat, and that is, what is the average time of the commute between the residence and the campus? So it depends on if you're living on campus, in an on-campus residence. I would say the furthest would be probably 15 to 20 minutes of a walk. There are lots of accommodations which were within like a very close, a reasonable walking distance to the School of Optometry. So I guess we'll end on that note, but again, happy to answer any questions, and tell you if any questions come up from the group afterwards and you want to email me directly, I'm more than happy to try and answer them for you, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Bright.
Right. Okay, well, thanks everyone. And again, my apologies for the mix up in time.
No, it's all good. Thank you so much for coming out.
Okay, have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too.